Lassiter Factor.
What's up, all my movie-loving maniacs? This is your boy Bankful B of the Lassiter Factor, and today I'm going to talk about The 40-Year-Old Virgin, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary. But I'm going to be honest, I was just going to post my Letterboxd review for this movie and call it a day, but as I was watching this movie, I kind of got an idea that I thought would be fun, because when I rewatched this movie, I realized that there are a lot of actors in this movie that went on to have great careers after this movie's release. Now, granted, some of them, they had already been acting prior to this movie, but it wasn't until they made this movie that it shot them up to A-list status, if you want to call it that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the top 5 actors that went on to have great careers after this movie's release. And for the criteria, it's basically based on the quality of the work they did after this movie, the legacy their works had after this movie, and also the things they did outside of acting as well. The criteria, it might be a little all over the place, but once you see me break it down, I think you'll understand how I have them all ranked. But don't worry, after I get through this top 5, I may or may not at least give out my Letterboxd review after I do this. But for right now, these are the top 5 actors that went on to have great careers after The 40-Year-Old Virgin. Coming in at number 5 is Elizabeth Banks, who didn't have a huge role in this movie, but played a pretty substantial role in which Andy is about to have sex with near the end of the movie before he ends up with Catherine Keener's character. And to her credit, she did leave a bit of an impression. But as for her career prior to this movie, I mean, she did already have a bit of an acting career. I know she's been in Wet Hot American Summer and its Netflix spinoffs, which I have never seen. Wet Hot American Summer. She played Betty Brant in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. And then after The 40-Year-Old Virgin, she was in Zack and Miri with her 40-Year-Old Virgin co-star, Seth Rogen. She was in the Hunger Games movies, in which she plays Effie Trinket. And she plays the voice of Wildstar in the Lego movies. role models with her other 40-Year-Old Virgin co-star Paul Rudd, and then we all remember when she played Rita Repulsa in the Power Rangers movie from 2017. She's also delved her hand into some directing here and there. Like, of course, she's responsible for the Pitch Perfect movies, in which she directed the second one. She made the Charlie's Angels reboot or remake, whatever you want to call it. Either way, it was ass, but then she redeemed herself with Cocaine Bear 2 years ago. At number 4 is Kevin Hart, who had a brief role in this movie in which he interacts with his Think Like a Man co-star, Romany Malco. But for that little short scene, he was still funny, but that's nothing compared to the career he had after this movie. Now, obviously, we all know he started out before he made that movie, but we all remember the first couple of times we saw him was in Scary Movie 3 and 4. He was in Soul Plane, which is a cult classic among black folks. I just mentioned Think Like a Man, in which his co-star from The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Romany Malco, was in those movies. He did Ride Along 1 and 2, the Jumanji movies, and Central Intelligence. Both of those he did with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's delved his hand in some voice acting, like he plays the voice of the bunny in The Secret Life of Pets. He made this movie called Fatherhood, which I think is probably one of his best dramatic roles. If you have not seen that, I highly recommend it. And then, of course, he has had multiple stand-ups, and all of them, for the most part, were funny. At number 3 is the star of the movie, Steve Carell, who plays the title character, and he had somewhat of a career prior to this movie. The earliest thing I saw him in was Bruce Almighty, and then he got his own sequel, Evan Almighty, and then he was in Little Miss Sunshine after The 40-Year-Old Virgin, which I'll admit I've never seen. Of course, we all know him as the voice of Gru in the Despicable Me movies. He was in Get Smart, The Office, which everybody loves, the Anchorman movies, Crazy Stupid Love, which is one of my favorite rom-coms, but he is also an Oscar-nominated actor. One of those movies in which is Foxcatcher, which I have seen, and if you have not seen that, I highly recommend it. To me, it's one of Steve Carell's best performances. My runner-up is Paul Rudd, in which he plays one of Steve Carell's friends in the movie that was actually empathetic towards Andy in the movie once he found out that he was a virgin. As we all know, Paul Rudd, he's had a very long career, and it took a while for it to get going, but he has had a very long career. In fact, he was in Clueless, which I did watch for the first time. He was in Halloween 6, which we like to forget. As I mentioned earlier, Wet Hot American Summer. He was in the Anchorman movies with his co-star, Steve Carell. Knocked Up, another one of his 40-year-old virgin co-stars with Seth Rogen. Their role models I mentioned again, and of course the Knocked Up sequel, This Is 40. And I haven't seen Perks of Being a Wallflower in a long time, but I do remember him vividly in that movie. In fact, really from an acting standpoint, he might be the best actor, and he's had plenty of acting roles after the 40-Year-Old Virgin, and he's delved his hand in some franchise filmmaking, the Ant-Man movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the latest Ghostbusters movie, Ghostbusters Afterlife, and Frozen Empire. He plays the voice of the Gecko in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem, Death of a Unicorn, which is one of my favorite films of the year. And he's also done some TV here and there, most notably the third season of Only Murders in the Building, and then he plays a completely different character in the fourth season. But coming in at number one is Seth Rogen, who's, of course, has been in a lot of movies, but probably is the most, I guess, creatively gifted of all the actors on this list, because he's delved his hand in both movies, TV, voice acting. He's done a lot of things within the industry, and he's someone that I would like to with at some point. But like I said, he has done a lot of things. Of course, I mentioned the 40-Year-Old Virgin, but he also did Knocked Up, Superbad, 50-50, This Is the End, The Neighbors movies, The Interview, Zack and Miri Make a Porno, which I mentioned earlier. I said he's done some voice acting. He's been in the Kung Fu Panda movies. He played Steve Wozniak in the Steve Jobs movie from 10 years ago with Michael Fassbender playing the title character. He was in The Night Before. He played the director in The Disaster Artist. He plays the voice of Pumbaa in the live action Lion King movie. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, he was in he also helped create the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie, in which he plays the voice of Bebop in the movie. Pam and Tommy, a good little mini series if you have not seen yet. Sausage Party, another movie he's also delved his hand in voice acting in. And I mentioned that he is responsible for a lot of TV that's out right now, such as Preacher, The Boys, Invincible, Platonic, which I haven't seen but heard nothing but good things about. But The Studio, if you have not seen that, I highly recommend that. So those are, in my opinion, the top 5 actors that went on to have great careers after this movie. And The 40-Year-Old Virgin, after I rewatched it, it was still one of the funniest movies I've ever seen, and still one of my favorite comedies of all time. I'm going to give the 40-Year-Old Virgin the heart eyes emoji. And thank y'all so much for watching. Did you enjoy this video? And have you seen the 40-Year-Old Virgin lately? If so, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Is it still funny to you? Let me know. But this is your boy Ben for B of the Lassiter Factor. Stay safe, wash your hands, peace.